everyone. I'm Linda Nickell, and welcome to the Happiness Hour. Every week, photographers meet here to connect, inspire, and create. And you can find the schedule on my website at lindanickell.com/happiness hour. And while you're there, please consider signing up for our monthly newsletter. Tonight's guest is Darlene Perkin. Darlene is a photographer whose creative journey stretches from Manitoba to Mazatlan. Known here at the Happiness Hour for her Red Chair Diary project, you can check out session number 149 and her eclectic collection of vivid, story-rich images. Darlene brings a unique perspective shaped by curiosity and a love of color. In her presentation, Doorways of Mexico, Darlene invites us to wander the streets of Mazatlan, a city of stories, where some are whispered through crumbling facades and others boldly told through vibrant, time-worn doors. Each winter, Darlene returns to photograph these portals, some abandoned, others alive with character, revealing how history, decay, and endurance weave together in this coastal city's urban soul. Tonight, she'll share not only the beauty she's found there, but also practical insights on photographing doors, what to look for before you shoot, how to compose compelling frames, and how to enhance textures and tones in post-processing. You can find Darlene on Instagram at Roscoe Dosco, and you can connect with her through her website at perkind@myportfolio.com, and I will link those in the show notes. So with that, welcome back to the Happiness Hour, Darlene.
Oh, thanks, Linda, and thanks to everybody for coming tonight. I'm excited to share some of Mazatlan with you.
No, so you live in Manitoba, but I know you spend your winters in Mexico. Is Mazatlan your home base? I wasn't sure if that's where you kind of stay or
Yeah,
if you bebop around. Okay, so
we go to Mazatlan all the time, so
okay,
yeah.
well, good. So you'll know it well. Well, first of all, thank you for coming back and doing. Okay, so this is the second presentation for the Happiness Hour, but I reeled her in and she did one for me for another group that I host. So this is your third time to do this for me.
Right.
All right, right? I
Yeah,
know, third time. So anyway, so welcome back. Anything that you want to say that I might have missed in your intro?
I don't think so. I think we'll just get started and
Okay. All right, let's do it.
on with it. Welcome, everyone, and I'm excited to share some of my stories about Mazatlan, Mexico, where I spend my winters, as we were saying before. And on my title slide here, I was telling Linda that the font is Mexican tequila. So I thought that was kind of cute to be able to use that as my font for the show. So here, well, Linda mentioned about the Red Chair project, and I'm still doing some Red Chair pictures. In this case, the Red Chair couldn't fly with me to Mazatlan, so I just did a little Photoshop magic to put it into this doorway. So why photograph doorways? And I find that I really enjoy the architecture that you see as you walk along all the streets in Mazatlan. And the architecture is interesting because it's designed to keep out the heat and let the air flow through. And I'm sure you people that are in the southern states are well aware of that. Also, these are very secure portals to keep the people out that you don't want in, keep the thieves out. I also photograph doorways mainly to tell the story, and it often takes more than one picture to tell the story. And I'm going to be doing a little section on that. These doorways provide a window to peek into other people's lives, past and present. And this particular one is in the present, but there are so many abandoned doorways in downtown, in Central, in Mazatlan. These doorways are the soul of the country, and it's pretty interesting to see what's behind the door. Doorways often can, for a photographer, can hide blah skies, although the skies are usually blue in Mazatlan, but they can hide buildings or other things that don't add to your picture. So you can kind of zero in on buildings that way. And we always say in Mazatlan, you never know what's behind the door. It can be run down and decrepit, and then back in behind there are these beautiful courtyards. So this is my contact information, and at the bottom is myportfolio.com, and that's a part of the Adobe subscription program. And for those of you who don't know, if you have the photographer plan, it gives you Photoshop, Lightroom, and 5 websites. So you can have 5 different portfolios. So if you just want to take a screenshot or use your phone and just take a quick shot of any of these pictures or this slide, for example, then you'd have the information. So this doorway is the story behind my story in Mazatlan. We started going there because our friends from Manitoba owned this, or had a business in this building. It was a restaurant and bar called Canucks. And my husband went down there to play in the band, in the house band. And so we started out just going every couple, or like maybe for 2 weeks, and then 3 weeks, 3 months, and so on and so forth. And he always plays music down there. So this was Canucks, and it is now Sinaloa. It's called, and Mazatlan is in the state of Sinaloa, and there's a type of music that's just a part of Sinaloa, and it's called banda. And I'm sure some of you have seen banda or heard banda. Banda's sort of a cross between a high school marching band and a German Oom-Pah-Pah band. And there's a lot of banda bands on the beach. Some of them are not so good, and a lot of them are really good. And when they get to be really good, they're on the road and they travel to all kinds of huge arenas, and they're a big deal. So this doorway here takes you into where we had so much fun. The bands that play there now are so loud that I really can't stay inside to listen. So this is the inside where we danced and we watched the sunsets from this wonderful spot. And it's all changed now, but that's the story behind how we ended up in Mazatlan. So when I'm doing my post-processing, I thought I would just mention this now, the programs that I use. Of course, Photoshop, Lightroom. I like Luminar Neo. It's got some really good presets, and it's so easy to put a vignette on a picture using Luminar, so I like it. Another one that I really like is Topaz Studio 2. And it used to be free. Well, I guess you had to buy it, but somehow there was a free version came along and I got it. And I think you can still get it. I think if you go in, you say free trial, and then you have it, because they're not supporting it anymore, and Topaz keeps changing what they are offering. But this one has all kinds of presets. Oh, what are they called? They've got looks. They're called looks. And then there's also filters, and you can use them separately. You can combine them, but just some really interesting effects. And of course, you can adjust them, dial them down, or whatever. It's a pretty powerful program. So you might want to take a look around for it if you're interested in that kind of thing. Another app that I use on my phone or my iPad is PixArt, and it has free stuff and then a lot of the really nice features in it you have to pay for. And so many of these apps are subscriptions now, so I just use the free parts because I don't want to be paying monthly charges for things that I might not use all that often. And then I'm sure you're all familiar with Snapseed, which is the free Google app on your iPad, and it is really good, really powerful, and lots of fun to use. So those are the programs that I used, and I'll mention a few of them as we go along. So when I'm taking these pictures, as I was saying, so many of them, the doorways tell a story and you need more than one picture to tell the story. So I'm just going to show you a few and some of the stories that go with them. This is the most interesting doorway. Um, it just looks like nothing along this block, and it's in Centro in downtown Mazatlan. So this is pretty interesting because when you come along here, you just don't realize what's going to be behind the door. This is a closer take on it. All the different textures and the woods and metals and so on. But when this door opens, it's pretty interesting. So here comes a pulmonea. This is something that is only in Mazatlan, and these are little taxis. They're like a Volkswagen golf cart, a little bit bigger, but they're great for buzzing around and they're lots of fun and they play loud music and uh, just are fun to be in. They're called a pulmonea because if you're out in them at night, you're probably going to catch pneumonia. So that's where the word pulmonea comes from. So this little pulmonea was coming along and these people were maybe going to be delivered to what's behind the door here. And when you go in, there was stairs up and a restaurant and then a blues band playing. So this is a place where we had a lot of fun too. My husband is on the far right in the band. There's people here from Canada, Mexico. The sax player was from France, but the bass player was the bass player for Canned Heat, and he still goes on tour in the summer with Canned Heat. So that was kind of an interesting thing. So beautiful spot behind the door. So you might wonder why the Cavern Club is in Mazatlan, and everybody wonders that. It seems like one of the mayors got this idea that he was going to have the Cavern Club and opened it up. And it's just kind of an interesting thing to have in Mexico to have um, the London Beatles. And so here they are. The mascot for Mazatlan is a deer, the venado, and the baseball team is called the Venados. So there in the background is the deer monument, it's called. And if you want to meet somebody, you meet them by the deer monument. But I thought this was so interesting to have bronze statues of the Beatles just for no reason. So this fellow's got an important job and he's going to be coming up to a doorway delivering the cerveza. So this is Pacifico, which is made in Mazatlan. So everybody drinks Pacifico. And he was heading in through this doorway into a little store. Uh, these little stores just sell everything. And I'm sure anybody who's been to Mexico has been in all kinds of these stores. I just love them because you can buy anything from one egg to, you can get one lime, you can buy one potato, it's just a different way of shopping. So this is another doorway, and when that red door goes up, you go into the time machine, rock and roll pub. But I put this picture in because I wanted to show that down here at the bottom, the doorway is up really high. And you'll notice that with a lot of the doorways that they are up really high. And that's for when the rains come, especially in the summer, the water will be up to at least that level and probably over. It's just flowing through the streets. This is a doorway I just love. This is a store and it's just got so much character. It is busy all day, but they just have everything. They've got brooms, they've got snacks, they've got your eggs, your produce, whatever. You can pretty much get everything in this little wee tiny store. So this isn't showing a doorway yet, but when I first the first few years that I was in Mazatlan, they had house tours, and people would allow this group to bring busloads of people. There'd usually be about 3 double-decker buses, and we would visit about 6 houses. And all the proceeds from this would go to either the animales, the animals, or to the homeless shelters, or to the orphans. So just depending on what group was putting on the house tour. And I always wanted to go in this house. I walked by it every day for several winters, and then finally it was on the house tour, and it was owned by a doctor, and the statues and all this all the decorative work is just pretty interesting. I just took this one last winter, and the house is not being kept up as well as it used to be. I think the older couple have um, I'm sure they've passed away and someone else is in the house. But the statues were so interesting, and the dark area there behind the gate is at the actual doorway. But I just had to show you this, and I have to show you the next one because this is out front too, and it's quite an interesting place. I don't know who dreamed up having all these statues. You can see this is in the harsh light of day. It's kind of a good time to take pictures if you want to get, these harsh shadows. And if you want a lot of the textures, you can often get them. Lots of times I have no choice. I go out in the daytime for pictures, and I'm busy doing other things in the evenings. But I had to throw this in just so you could see what what this house was all about. So this was the doorway. And when I got to go in the house, so much of the furniture was carved like this, very ornate, and I always wondered who had to clean it. I would hate to have to be working on any of this. But what a fabulous doorway this is. So this doorway leads us into the cathedral. And the Mazatlan Cathedral is one of the most beautiful churches. This is how the doorway looks from outside. I find I often have to shoot straight up because there just isn't room to get back. In this case, I could get back a bit, but then you're right out onto the street. So when you come through the doorway, this is what's inside, and there's other doorways in here. Just a beautiful, beautiful interior. You can see with the sloping pillars that the perspective has changed because it's so tall, you're shooting up. So I often just do the church this way because I just love these pillars leaning back like this. It was interesting, the stained glass up at the very top, there's the star. I believe it's the Star of David, but when they were building the cathedral, the Roman Catholics ran out of money, and the Jewish community actually helped them finish it. And that's why there's the stars up in the stained glass. So when you're shooting doorways, you have to make a decision, or you can decide after, but you have to decide, are you going to have people, a lot of people in the picture, or are you just going to do the doorway? So this little art shop was quite busy around there, and I shot it this way with a lot of people. And then I waited, and everybody disappeared. And so that's something to consider when you're doing doorways. I just love these ones with the trees and all the blossoms out, and the way people fix up their doorways. This is another case where this little door opens and you've got an ice cream stand. And so when I got there, this is what I saw. And so I've got my person in the doorway, but then she left and nobody else came along. So I just did the ice cream cone in the previous picture. So most interesting culture where, you never know what's behind this door when it closes. You'd have no idea that there's this ice cream shop behind it. This one was kind of cute because this is over at my friend's condo, and there's about well, 6 units in this building. But anyway, the owner of it is, or one of the owners is very um, good-hearted. She does a lot of community work. And behind this umbrella is one of the homeless guys in our area, but he's a hard worker. He's washing cars all the time, or he's down helping the oyster man. But this is what he rigged up from stuff he'd found on the beach. And we came to visit, and my friend came down the stairs and she's yelling, "Juan, get out of there." So here he goes. He was sleeping on a little surfboard or a little boogie board that he'd found on the beach, and he had this beach umbrella, and he puts it in the protection of the doorway for the night. So it was kind of a cute thing. These doorways are really interesting. Someone has taken over this old building and it's got so many doors, and they've turned it into an art gallery and I guess a coffee shop, and just a place where you can go in and look through all kinds of rooms. So this is the doorway. I could not get back any further to get the top of it. The streets are quite narrow, and you just can't always get back as far as you want to. I thought this was a beautiful doorway, the way they have it decorated, and then when they close the gates, um, you won't even know that there's an art shop inside. If you're looking for some real estate to buy, well, this is for you. Um, this must have just been a beautiful place in the past, and it's been for sale for a long time. And I'll show you the next picture that doesn't have a doorway, but it is huge. But this doorway was probably just beautiful in its time, and now you always wonder, like, who lived there and who could possibly have dreamed up this place. This is a wide angle of it, and it goes on and on and on. It's at least half a block square for this house. If you go through this little doorway, which is an outdoor doorway, you can catch a boat to Stone Island, which is not an island, it's a little peninsula. But that's how we go over to Stone Island, and uh, you pay your 35 pesos, and that gives you a return ticket. And when you get your ticket, you go down this ramp to the boat and you'll head over to Stone Island. And there's just beautiful beaches there that go on and on and on. You could walk forever. So that's sort of telling a story using one or two pictures for each doorway. I did a few pictures of some murals. And people put a lot of work into murals everywhere in the world. But I thought this was kind of nice, the Venado in black and white and in color, and then the little doorway obviously abandoned beside it. This one I really like. Um, it's quite an interesting mural, and then with the rundown door again. And I don't know what's behind. You can't figure it out unless it is opened up. And another viewpoint of this. So there's just a little bit of rubble in behind there. And who knows what's back in there, if somebody's living back in there or what. I always like to include a little bit of the rest of the street with the stop signs that nobody stops at. They're just a friendly suggestion to slow down in Mazatlan. Another interesting mural, and I really like this one that just shows a typical Mexican countryside scene. Another one, you notice the height of the door, and that's again for protection from the floodwaters. I included this one because the power lines are really something in Mazatlan. There, every hydro man's nightmare. There's lines coming out from everywhere and converging, and um, it's quite an interesting system they have. I like to use different perspectives on on the murals, some of them I shoot straight on if I can, some of them down the street. And do the horizontal, and I often do a vertical of the same thing. So I don't know if any of you ever watched Brian Peterson's School of Photography when he just passed away. But Brian Peterson's big thing was, when's the best time to take a vertical? Right after you take a horizontal. So I always remember that when I'm out shooting, and I'm always thinking, oh, time to take the vertical. So just maybe a few shooting ideas. Um, the time of day doesn't really matter. I find the bright sun really brings out really good color and definition. If the light is lower, often the streets are in shade because the streets are so close to or so narrow. And so I don't find that later in the day works all that well. So I just go out whenever I can. I like this one because it shows the doorway is on a corner and you wonder what's around the corner and you kind of peek around. And it's kind of an interesting little painting that's on the door. I try to do some doorways that lead you in. So, just the perspective in here. And when the gates are closed, again, it doesn't look like much is in there, but when we got back in there, there's a beautiful restaurant, very up to date, modern. Again, shooting up, this is the Supreme Court of the Justice of the Nation. And I could have straightened this in Lightroom. I really like Lightroom for fixing tilting buildings, but I wanted to leave this one the way it was, just so you'd see the whole top. If you do the transform, you always lose something off the top or the sides. So just a closer up of the lettering above this doorway. I thought this was kind of interesting for a type of perspective. Um, just these pillars are pretty interesting. And of course, there's always the mail slot on the door, the bouzon. So this is a symmetrical perspective, shooting so that both sides are equal. Kind of fancy pillars, they keep your eye moving for sure. And then I did it from the side too, because the decorations on these doorways are just so interesting. Sometimes I try and get people walking by, so I had a whole series of this person walking, and you just keep taking them and hope you get the person with their feet in the right position and in the right spot in the doorways. So this one worked out really well. This is an old building that's been redone and it's being kept up really well. So this doorway is on one of the restaurants up in, well, there's the area in central Mazatlan where all the people used to live, and now a lot of those places are abandoned and they moved up into this area called Sabalo country. And there's a gated community where a lot of people moved to and left the property that's down in central. But I thought this doorway was pretty interesting, the way it's faded in parts and just all these different carvings on it. And I was taking a picture of it, and the guy that was working there came out and said, "Oh, you want the door? Well, I'll shut it for you so that you can see the whole door." So always helpful. I processed this one to make or to have the wood sort of the natural way, the way it was looking. And then I did another processing. No, this isn't the one, sorry. I thought it was. Um, I did it later on in another way, so you can decide which you like better later on. So every now and then we go out of town. It just depends on the year. Last year it wasn't safe to go out of town. There was a lot of trouble with the cartels last year, and so we always talk to locals. And if they say, "Yeah, it's safe to go to certain places," then I often go out of town and do some photography. This was one of my girls' lunch days, and there's a couple of Mexican girls in the group, and they know what's going on. So this was 2 years ago when we went out of town to a place called La Noria, which is fairly close, maybe half an hour away. Just an interesting place. And I thought this was an interesting doorway with the metal um, over it. I don't even know if that metal opens. I don't think it does, so it must be an unused doorway, but the old wood, the peeling paint. So this is a pretty interesting doorway in Lenoria, and I would hate to be the one watering all this, but just beautiful, beautiful plants. A lot of my pictures have power lines and you can't escape it there, and they're just part of the landscape, just lines coming everywhere. So I often try to include them because they are just such a part of the whole scene. So I did one a little closer up so you can see the doorway into the place. And I have no idea what was in there. I'm sure it's just somebody's home. So this is the picture that I had behind me earlier on, and Linda was commenting on the rose, what a beautiful rose. But for this picture, I did a soft white vignette around it, and that helped lift some of the blacks so it wasn't quite so stark. But this beautiful pink entranceway. In a lot of these doorways, like for example, this one, I use Luminar AI Enhance. It's a really nice little slider that just enhances textures and colors. So you never know what's behind the gate or what's behind the door. And my Mexican friend said when we were there, oh, they wanted to get some queso, so they wanted to go to this cheese place. And we walked up this long, long driveway and came to this door. And in we went. So these are my two Mexican friends that I go out with. And here we are right in where the cheese is. And she was, oh boy, these gals know what they want and they barter, and it's fun to be with them. So here was another little doorway that I thought was pretty interesting. It really shows the brickwork in Mexico, and there's just these brick factories, and the bricks are not always perfect. And as they get older, some of them are crumbling and so on. But this is a pretty interesting little doorway. It just makes you wonder what's behind there. We got to go out at Christmas. We got into El Cid, and that's where there's just some beautiful homes. It's a gated community, so you have to be invited in. And we were lucky to get in for Christmas Day. And these are some of the decorations and some of the doorways. So you can see the size of this doorway. It's just massive. Um, the decorations are something else because these people obviously have a company come in and do it. And as you walk around block after block, you'll see a few of the same things. Like, for example, maybe those three presents on the right-hand side, they'll be used in an entirely different way in at another home. So we really had fun going around and seeing these doorways because they're incredible and the decorations are incredible. So you see the people walking up the driveway, and you can get a sense of the nutcrackers, which are full size. So you get a sense of the doorway there. And this is all one home. So just a little bit closer up, and I think on this one I used Lightroom Transform that just stood it up because everything was leaning a bit. So just to correct perspective, that's one thing I really like is the transform tool in Lightroom. But another just beautiful doorway. Oh, I think I put this one in twice. Sorry about that. This is a closer up view, and back in behind um, Santa there's just another little doorway in there too. But just incredible Christmas decorations. And I just love that they're so into Santa and they're so into um, the reindeer and penguins and all the things north. And behind these doorways, they just have beautiful Christmas parties. They'll have a full band back in there. Um, just wonderful table settings and dinners. So when you're shooting doorways, I really look for the details. And there's so many details on their doorways. Um, on this one, I'm sure you're going to immediately see the security systems. In Central and even in our area, there's a lot of this broken glass used as your security, keep people out. Of course, over here, the razor wire and then just barbed wire. And so I put the top of this doorway in just to show how protected this place is. In behind is Icebox Hill, and that's where all the microwave or all the transmission towers are. So there's a lot of technology up there on the hill. In this case, I couldn't avoid the hydro pole, so I just put it in and left it there. I call it hydro, that's what we call it in Manitoba. I guess it's the power pole. Okay, here's that doorway again where I processed it differently than the first time. Um, Added a little more warmth to it. And then a different look. And I think I did this in topaz and I just tried them and I thought, well, I don't know which one I like best, so I'll put them both in and you guys can take a look at the differences. There's always lots of locks. There's lots of rust. I used to think that, gee, people should get busy and be painting things. And then I'd find out, well, they painted that 6 months ago and the rust just comes through. The salt air is really hard on everything, um, especially metal. And I always do a close-up of some of these locks and some of the rusty areas. This is just a beautiful doorway. It's an original Rancho gate. And I don't know what this place was. I can't remember. But anyway, this gate is for sale. And it's just a beautiful, beautiful patina on it. So again, take a vertical after you shoot the horizontal. The decor, all this work on it, it's really something. Another doorway done with panels, and just the amount of work that's in this and the way it's put together is pretty fascinating. I think I used a topaz filter on this as well. I really like some of their the looks that they have. Would just emphasize the texture. I thought this was interesting. It's all in English. So it must be somebody who's got a shop inside and it's a window carving and 65,000 Mexican US. You divide that by about 20. So what? What are we looking at? 30,000 US for that window carving. So then up in the zone, as we call it, this was a liquor store and I couldn't get rid of the reflections inside, but I thought this change said it all because there are also locks down here. There'll be a lock at the top and then this gigantic chain on this doorway. And they're not letting anybody in. So again, take the horizontal, take the vertical. You never know which one you're going to like best. the mail slots. In this case, it's all rusted. And it's interesting that they have mail slots, but when your bills come, if your power bill comes and your water bill, the guy comes along on a motorcycle and he just throws them through the metal gate that's at the front. And so they're just on the ground. And if the wind comes, your bill might be down the street, but it's still due. This one I did a black and white on it, um, just because I didn't think there was all that much interest here. So I thought, let's try black and white. It's not the most fantastic door, but it does show the letterbox. So this is where these people that are delivering flyers and some of your mail, they'll just stuff them in a hole like this. And I doubt that anyone is even living back in here, but they cover every spot, that every house on the street or every doorway. Kind of an interesting lock that doesn't lock anymore. So there's the mail slot behind the gate, the moves on, but this is what they do for advertising. You come home and you'll have all kinds of things taped on your gate from, the fruiteria, from a restaurant, from maybe even a grocery store down the street. It's just kind of interesting how they operate. I really like this one for the different textures, the different patterns, different designs, and you've got the rust, you've got several locks, you've got places where locks used to be, and then the big padlock on front. So again, shoot the vertical, and it's kind of interesting. It's very busy, but really shows the design of the gate. And again, the rust, who knows when this was painted? It may have just been painted a few months ago. This one I just loved. I had to put this in when I saw it on the street close to us. And it was like, oh boy, here's a doorway. Um, for this one, I used Topaz Studio 2. And this time when I was using a filter, I started at the bottom of the list because I'm sure if you guys use these programs and you run through all the filters and you're going and going, and you often use the ones that are at the beginning of the list. So I thought, I'm going to go to the bottom of the list. And this is called Topaz Whisker Wires. And so it really put a lot of structure into the metal and into that plastic bag. Um, it almost has an oil painting look to it as well. And I thought that was kind of an interesting, I think it was a filter. Another interesting way to secure your doorway. And this one, I don't think anybody will ever get in through that lock. That's just incredible. The rust buildup and just the age on it. For this one, these doorways are up so high, and I was standing on a step, and I couldn't even move an inch back, or I would have been falling down about 3 feet into the street. These stairs just go up on the street. And again, it's that rain protection. So I often look for symmetry. And I don't know whether these doors have shifted or if somebody didn't put things on straight. So there's symmetry, but it's a little off. But pretty interesting to have these brass horse knockers and then the rusty handles and just the patina on the wood. So here's the horizontal, and in post-processing, I used one of the Topaz filters, which just made all the textures pop. Another interesting gate with a latch system that's obviously broken, and there's how many locks on that door. So they often even put their electricity meter, their CFE meter, inside a box. I'm not sure how this works now, but it used to be that like the water meter goes with your name, not with your address. And so if somebody steals your water meter, they can just put it on your house, at their house, and you get the bill, and you have to track down your meter. So some people have them locked up in metal cages, or in this case, they've built this nice little wooden box. And this is one of the newer areas in Mazatlan. It was more of a modern suburb, and the letter or the numbering on these streets is incredible. Like this is number 28, but across the street might be 439, and then it jumps to 281. So when you're looking for an address, or you'll see the Perlator delivery truck come along, and these guys are just like going up and down because it's like the Mad Hatter went through and numbered the houses. So we always have a laugh about that when you're trying to find somebody's house, and but they'll tell you what color it is instead of giving you a number. Another example of, great peeling paint, the rust at the bottom of this door just has eaten it away. So I'm always on the lookout for these things. This one I shot up, and I just love the angle of all the hydro lines up there. And the decoration above this doorway is pretty incredible. And again, the vertical, which just gives it a different look, and you get to see a little bit more of the door. Again, I could straighten it out, but I just left it the way it was. I just kind of like the whole perspective on this one. Lots of details. They have all kinds of, they're just masters with cement work. So here's a cement doodad of some sort. And then again in another spot where their number is. The carving on some of the doors is just incredible. This looks like it's a dove. And this is a boarded up doorway, and they've used it to have some artwork on it. Always vivid colors. The Mexicans love color. So throughout, I've talked a little bit about post-processing. I did a couple of things here just to show you some things that you can try, some different things that you can try. And so I took this picture, and then the next one is where I did something with it. So we've got our pulmonía in the picture. And when we first went to Mazatlan, this building was just being built, and there are multiple doorways, just a beautiful castle-like structure. And it wasn't finished for a lot of years. The person that was building it disappeared for a period of time, so not quite sure where he was, but the rumors have it, that there was probably some cartel money involved here. And so then somebody opened a restaurant up on the right-hand side, and there's still a restaurant up there, and I don't even know what's in the rest of the building. It's an interesting place. There is a bit of life there, but just this little doorway down here, and then doorway here, and there's multiple doorways all around. So I thought, well, it'd be kind of fun to make it look as if I'd panned. And I'm not sure that this worked out quite as good as I was hoping, but that would be something to consider for something like this if you wanted to have your pulmonía the main part of your picture. So I tried the blurring effect in Photoshop as if I had moved the camera at the same speed as the pulmonía was going. So that's one thing you could consider, is doing the intentional camera movement. For this doorway, I used that app called PixArt, and I think this effect was called rose gold, and it just made everything very mysterious on this door. So then I took this picture that we saw before, the mural, and I thought I'm going to turn this day to night and try and do a night effect on it. And I thought it worked out okay. So in this case, I used a moon. This is the moon that I took in Manitoba and put it in Photoshop. I lit up the bat's eyes and also put a light above the doorway and some light spilling out at the bottom. And to do this effect in Photoshop, it's actually pretty easy. Um, and I did a screenshot and it didn't show the whole bottom of the screen, but this gives you a good idea. You do a color lookup, make an adjustment layer and do a color lookup. So when you put that, it will come up to load 3D LUT, or it's a lookup table. And then if you go down the list, there's Moonlight, and that's the one I used. And the one below it that got cut off was Nighttime. So the Moonlight one seemed to give the nicest effect, I thought. So that's the one I used. But there's just all kinds of things in that lookup table. So check that out if you're using Photoshop. So just make an adjustment layer and then you'll see this up here, load 3D LUT, and when you click on it, all these choices will come up. You can just run through them and see it happen on your picture. So this is the Moonlight one, and it does that nice blue look. The day to night one does a little bit different blue, so you can just experiment and see which one you like. But I thought that one turned out good for the day to night, and you could try it on any of your daytime pictures, especially if you have windows or lamp posts that you can light up using yellow. And if you want to watch a tutorial on this, I really like the Photoshop Cafe, and I think his name is Colin Smith, and he puts out videos constantly, but I like following one person because then they do things the same way. And he has a really good tutorial on day to night. So this one of the rows, as I said before, I put a white vignette on it. And then I tried the Orton effect. And I'm sure everybody's heard of the Orton effect. It was a technique that was developed by Michael Orton, who was from Vancouver, British Columbia. And basically, when we used to do it in slides, we took one picture overexposed and in focus, and the other picture two stops overexposed and out of focus, and put them together. And you got this dreamy look. So it just softens everything. And if you want to try it, Google the Orton effect, and there's directions, and then you can write an action in Photoshop. So all you have to do is hit the action and see if you like it. And it does a beautiful effect on landscape pictures. So this picture that I showed before, I thought I'd try adding a texture to it. And so the paving bricks at the bottom were very light gray. And I added this texture here and used and pulled it over top of the picture and then did soft light blend mode. And that ended up making the paving stones this really nice dark color. Also gave a little bit of more color and texture to the ice cream cone, the cone part of it. So you can try adding textures to your pictures. For Mexican doorways, they have a lot of texture already, so it isn't really a technique that's going to work on a lot of them, but in this case, it worked really well just for the foreground. So I hope that gave you a little insight into the doorways that we look at in Mazatlan as we're walking down the streets all the time. And you always wonder what's behind the gate. And in this case, someone has been feeding the cats, and there's a lot of cats that are living back here in this crumbling ruin. But it could be that one day soon somebody will either buy this building, or the person who owns it is going to develop it into something, and they'll be in there just doing the concrete work, and it'll turn into some beautiful apartment area. So thank you so much. Gracias. Hasta pronto. I hope I see you again soon, and I hope you enjoyed seeing a little bit of Mazatlan doorways.
I think you have some fans. Christy said she's adding Mazatlan to her list.
Oh,
I'm pretty sure that Valerie Hoffman will tag along because um, just the rust in itself, not counting the other cool architecture, that would get her there. So, I have to ask you, I don't see any questions specific to you to your presentation, but um, what's your next project? Because you're one of the people that I think of that sets up projects for yourself.
yeah. Well, I've been working a little bit with my red chair still.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm doing a lot of grain elevators. The grain elevators are disappearing here in Manitoba, well, in the prairies, as they're being replaced by um, concrete structures. So the old wooden grain elevators are disappearing. So yeah, so that's I really don't have another project on the go at the moment.
All right, but you probably will. Um, this was fun. For me, when I'm traveling and I saw so many of those pictures in your presentation, and I've not been to very many places in Mexico. I've done the touristy places, but I've never really spent time in Mexico other than, oh, let's go to the beach and let's get something cold to drink. Um, just the carvings, the how intricate and how just artful they are. Um, those are things that, gosh, I hope they're there 20 years from now.
I'm sure they will be.
Yeah, I hope so because like the new places are going up, here. So at some point they will there and people will take those down. Um, and you'll lose that, I don't know, history and just craftsmanship. So, anyway, I was happy to have you do this, Darlene. So, thank you for sharing. I'm going to just scan this. Emails are not emails, but comments are popping left and right. So, I will definitely get this chat to you because I want you to see them.
Oh, sure. Thanks.
It was beautiful and the stories behind it and I particularly one that made me kind of giggle because it just spoke to me was the sign that says, case ice cream. Yes, please. So that those had my names all over it. So, all right. Well, thank you so much for doing this. Next week, Scott Setterberg will be here to share his presentation, Mastering Waterfall Photography. Until next time, go out and create something beautiful, and I hope that we see you again soon.